My friends like to explore abandoned buildings. I'm usually too cautious to go with them, but there was one time several years ago, back in high school, that they told me about this place a few hours from our hometown. It was an old furniture factory that was supposedly haunted. Other people who'd visited had experiences there, like shuffling coming from the upper floors and hearing groans. I have an interest in paranormal experiences, so this time my friends convinced me to go along. In addition to being such a long drive from our hometown, the place was practically in the middle of nowhere, which gave it a creepy vibe due to that alone. There were 3 floors, and some of the windows were smashed. Equipped with flashlights, we entered the building through a large broken window near what we guessed was the entrance, doors that were secured with heavy chains. There was old sawdust on the floor, and our flashlights illuminated the dust floating in the air. We explored the ground floor for a while, but mostly found nothing but a few empty beer bottles and a lot of graffiti. A good 20 minutes must have passed when there was this low, gravelly groaning sound coming from somewhere above us. Maybe this was the spirit we'd heard rumors about. Carefully, we climbed a flight of steep, rickety stairs to the 2nd floor. The groaning was louder here, and we were sure we were getting closer to the source. We split up to have a look around. Most of my friends were closer to the stairway, while I ventured off to the other side of the area. There was still so much equipment left behind, and even some discarded furniture parts. The groaning sound was intermittent now, and I followed it. It seemed to be coming from this large piece of machinery in the center of the floor. I approached it slowly, expecting to see maybe a metal hinge or something that was loose and creaking in a draft. But as I got closer, I noticed a smell, too. A sour, body odor type of smell. And that's when I saw it. A person. Their back to me. Hunched over. They had stringy, greasy black hair. I tried to be quiet and back away, but it was too late. The glow from my flashlight gave me away. The person spun their head around to look right at me. It was a man. His eyes looked wild, and his lips spread into a horrible, toothless grin as he slowly stood up. My friends called out to me from near the stairs, but all I could get out was, "Go, go, go," before running off as fast as I could. The man was following me with unbelievable speed, his footsteps slapping the floor behind me, gaining on me. Finally, I reached the stairs, but I felt him grab my arm. I turned to see him about to bite my wrist, but I swung my flashlight and managed to hit him in the head. He fell back, and I practically jumped down the stairs. As I met my friends at the bottom, I told them to run, and we could hear the stairs creaking above us. We made it out and back to the car, and that man didn't follow us out of the building. We don't know who he was, or what he was doing there, or what he would have done to me if he'd caught me. Since we were technically trespassing, we never told our parents or the police, and it bothers me to this day that that guy is still out there.
I'm a 6'5" guy who lives in Texas. However, despite this, I suffer from terrible asthma. As I'm sure you can guess, that meant 2020 was a stressful year, and 2021 hasn't been any better. Fortunately, since I live in the country, I don't get exposed to very many people, so that at least is some relief. Unfortunately for me, this story takes place during a freeze. Very unusual for Texas, and incredibly stressful. I came inside after tending to my livestock. I had noticed that the door was open. I thought it was extremely odd. I had been trying to keep the door shut due to cost of heating being what it was. I kind of was kicking myself for it when I noticed that there was a lot of mud on the floor. I thought this was very odd, so I followed the mud, and it led to the living room. I thought to myself maybe a hog had gotten in. It seemed unlikely, but just in case, I grabbed my hunting pistol. When I got back to the living room, the mud trail, while disappearing slowly, became more clear. It was a set of human footprints. Tiny, but very dirty. I followed it, and sure enough, it led me to a walk-in closet. Given the circumstances, there was no way I was going to search the closet myself, so I pulled out my cell phone and dialed 911. I explained to the operator the entire situation, and she assured me that police would be arriving there, but it would take some time. As I was on the phone with the operator, the closet door burst open, and this ragged, scrawny-looking woman burst out. We only had a moment where we looked each other in the eyes, but in that moment I could see her eyes were bloodshot. The skin around her mouth was blue. She had mucus running down her face, and she was coughing horribly. She screamed that she wanted to share the love, and then started charging at me. I ran into my computer room and locked the door. Even though there was a lock, it was a small lock on a particle wood door. She was crashing against it with the kind of strength only a deranged person has. In that moment, I realized I was going to have a difficult decision to make. Even though we're in a stand-your-ground state, the fact of the matter is, I'm still a hulking guy, and she's a tiny woman. Still, there was no way I was going to let her harm me with whatever she was carrying, and who knows whatever weapons she might have tucked away. I could see the small lock giving way on my door, and so I made a decision that I thought I might regret later. I squeezed the trigger, putting a small hole through the middle of the door. Immediately, I heard two things: horrible ringing in my ears, and the sound of a deranged scream. Realizing I was still on the phone with the operator, I turned my attention back to her and explained what I had just done, and why I had done it. She said the police would sort things out when they got there, and to simply remain in my office. About 25 minutes later, the police arrived. Each minute felt like an hour. They came inside, and explained to me that they wanted me to stay in there until they had a chance to search the premise. Not long after, they said they had found her, and that she was being taken away. They asked me to come out unarmed, and I happily obliged. I noticed there was a significant blood trail leading out from the front of the door to my back patio. They explained to me they had tracked the blood trail, and that had led to my crawl space underneath my house. They said they weren't going to arrest me, but they wanted to keep in touch. The next day, I got a call from the police. They explained to me no charges would be brought against me by the state, due to the fact that the woman had been released from an insane asylum at the beginning of 2020 in California. All this time, she had been surviving by living off people in their houses. The whole reason she was arrested and placed into a mental institution for the criminally insane is because she was caught trying to stab people with dirty syringes. I think to help put my mind and conscience at ease, the officer then explained to me that she had contracted HIV from her life in the streets, which is why she had such a terrible reaction to COVID. This did in fact make me feel better. If I hadn't done what I needed to do, I would have gotten COVID, and maybe something even worse. Still, it was a terrible mess to clean up, and even though I'll never admit it to anybody I know, I have nightmares about it to this day.